Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at this team which I use to climb a lot of ELO every single time that I've used something spicy and lost a lot of ELO and got into around the 2200 and below range. So coming into the first match, we lead Mandibuzz into Dunsparce. Not a great lead, so I'm going to say switch into Feraligatr. I think the opponent misclicked and they send in a Alolan Marowak. Alolan Marowak has an absolutely terrible matchup here, so I'm really not sure why they did that. I'm going to overfarm and fire off the Hydro Cannon, and Hydro Cannon does grab a shield. And the opponent has the move loaded, so I'm going to shoot it up. They go for the Bone Club, and I'm going to overfarm once more and go for the Hydro Cannon just before they make it to the move. Opponent does let that through, and now they're sending in Mandibuzz. I'm going straight for the Ice Beam, and the opponent does decide to shield that up. Now I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon as we are able to barely outpace. Hydro Cannon does some nice damage to the Mandibuzz, getting them to almost half health, and the opponent fires off the move just before we make it to the next Hydro Cannon. Aerial Ace does carry from this range. I'm going to send back in Mandibuzz. Opponent aggressive switches into Dunsparce, and I get to answer with Clodsire. Clodsire has a little bit of a bad matchup in the Zero Shield, but it wins in the 1s and the 2s. Opponent going to continue firing off the Jaw Runs, and we're already at around 30% health. I'm going to go for the Earthquake. That does some nice damage, and I'm able to barely outpace to the Stone Edge. Looks like there's a bit of a rollout animation glitch just there. You can sort of see half of it. Stone Edge barely doesn't get the KO, so the opponent switches back into their own Mandibuzz, and they attempt to snipe, but I'm able to read it in time, and I'm able to catch the Dark Pulse onto my own Mandibuzz. I'm going to continue to overfarm as the opponent fires off their moves, and I'm going to farm up to 100, almost 100 energy, and go for the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace gets them very low, and I'm now going to overfarm massively again, but not before the opponent fires off their own Aerial Ace. Aerial Aces, even though it's such a terrible move, it does eventually get us into the yellow health range, and I'm going to fire off my own Aerial Ace. Opponent sends back in the Dunsparce, and this is just a GG's, because I can fire off the Dark Pulse and get the KO. Into the next match, we see a great lead, Mandibuzz into Superior. Opponent's going to safe switch into Umbreon, and we don't have a great answer on this team. I've been seeing a lot of the same teams around, like Shadow Dragonite, Azumarill, and Ferrothorn in the back, and I've been seeing a lot of Superior and Umbreon cores as well. I'm going to fire off the Earthquake. Unfortunately, the opponent does have that surprise nuke move of Psychic, probably to bait out the Clodsire and then surprise them with a Psychic. I tried to call a bait there, but I'm unable to, and now I'm going to overfarm and go for the Earthquake. Earthquake will almost KO, so the opponent just lets it through, and they're going to fire off their move. I really want to fight the switch, because I do want that Mandibuzz aligned onto the Superior and not the Feraligatr. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get the full farm down, so I'm going to go for the Stone Edge. Stone Edge actually grabs a shield, which is fine. And now I'm going to just let the foul play through and send in Feraligatr. Oh no, Mandibuzz. I'm sending in Mandibuzz, and we are unfortunately not able to get the farm down, but foul play doesn't do much damage. Opponent sends in Dunsparce, and I'm going to send Feraligatr. Opponent sends back in Superior. I'm going to bait with the Hydro Cannon, but not before farming up to the Ice Beam. Hydro Cannon does grab a shield, that's very fortunate, and now we'll be able to outpace to 2 moves. Since we got an energy advantage, we will be able to barely outpace and throw in the CMP tie. Ice Beam from this range will definitely grab the KO, and the opponent's now going to send back in their Dunsparce. They do make it to the move, unfortunately, before we make it to the Hydro Cannon, and this is looking like a pretty hard game to win. We do have a big energy lead though. I'm going to fire off the Dark Pulse, and Dark Pulse will do some very nice damage. And it looks like 2 more will grab the KO. But we have to make this before the opponent makes 2 rock slides. Can we outpace? Opponent firing off the first rock slide. Are they 1 away? Opponent goes for the rock slide. And the next one is on the CMP tie. I'm not sure if Aerial Ace would have KO'd. Unfortunately, I might have just lost that game because I didn't think Aerial Ace KO'd, but it may have. Into the next match, we see Shadow Whiscash lead. This is a decent lead for us, unless they've got Blizzard. I tried to fire my Dark Pulse off on good timing, but that ends up costing me as the opponent fires off the Scald. Bit of good luck coming my way though, as I don't get the debuff. I'm firing off the Dark Pulse now, and the opponent is going to fire off the Scald just before I make the move again. Opponent goes for the Scald, and they unfortunately get the attack drop this time. I'm now going to fire off the Dark Pulse, and it will barely not KO, I think, after the debuff, but it actually does. Opponent sends in Talonflame, and we will be able to make the Dark Pulse before the opponent gets the farm down. Dark Pulse doesn't do much damage after the attack drop, but I'm going to send in Clodsire. Clodsire's matchup against Talonflame is a lot safer than Feraligatr's, which is why I sent in Clodsire. Feraligatr does one-shot with Hydro Cannon, but so does Clodsire with Stone Edge. Stone Edge does grab a shield. I think that means they're weak in the back. Opponent gonna throw their move. I'm just gonna let it through. And the opponent goes to the flame charge. I'm gonna fire off the next Stone Edge, and the opponent does shield it up, so I'm expecting them to be very weak in the back. I send in Feraligatr, and now I'm going to shield up the Flame Charge or the Brave Bird, either one. Even Flame Charge will pretty much KO, and in the back it's Meta Charm. So they were fairly weak in the back, not that weak to Clodsire. I'm surprised they didn't just bring that in. I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon, that almost KOs, and this is only the power-up punch. Why? Now that lets us go for the full farm down, but I actually don't because it would have been a Simul KO, but now I just give farm to Talonflame. That's fine, as I'm still able to switch and send in Clodsire, but I made that game a little bit harder than it needed to be. GG's. Into the next match, Mandibuzz into Malamar. This is a very decent lead, as we are heavily resisting the Psywaves. I'm going to heavily overfarm as well, but not before the opponent fires off their move. This is enough for the Hyper Beam, and it is the Hyper Beam. That does a lot of damage. I'm going to now fire off the Dark Pulse, and Dark Pulse will do some nice damage. I'm going to go straight for the next Dark Pulse, and let's see. Does the opponent want to shield it? They don't shield it, and it does get the KO. So that's very nice for us. Opponent sends in Dunsparce. This is a bit less nice, as Dunsparce is a little bit of a problem for this team. We can have very nice matchups against it with Feraligatr and Clodsire, but having an energy advantage against it does help, and Dunsparce with an energy advantage can definitely hurt this team. I'm thinking about it, and I'm going to send in Feraligatr, as I'm able to bank some energy and send in the Clodsire, as Clodsire does have the better matchup, but Feraligatr's energy is very threatening. Opponent goes for the Duron. I'm going to shoot it up and now fire off the Earthquake, but not before the opponent does go for the Duron. Clodsire takes it, and being super effective damage, that doesn't do anything at all to the extremely bulky Clodsire. I go for the Stone Edge. It won't actually KO, but the opponent ends up respecting it with a shield anyway. I accidentally throw in alignment, but that's just because Rollout's animation is so weird. I attempt to snipe with Feraligatr, but the opponent unfortunately does make a move. And in the back, it's Clodsire, so this is looking like a pretty good game. Feraligatr has 2 moves. One is going to connect. I'm going to fire off the next Hydro Cannon, and this should do a lot of damage. Wow, that does a lot of damage to the extremely bulky Clodsire. Now the opponent... Wait, they're already at the move? Wow, okay, they full send the Stone Edge, Earthquake, and now the opponent fires off the move. So this is unfortunately is going to be lost, but the opponent fires off a Stone Edge, and we survive the Poison Stings on 1 health, on 1 HP, and a Dream, and we're able to get the KO. So GG's. Into the next match, we see a big Core Breaker, Sandslash. And so I'm going to say switch into my main answer, which is going to be Feraligatr. Opponent does shoot up the Hydro Cannon, and then they switch into a Azumarill. Azumarill is kind of okay for Feraligatr, as Hydro Cannons, despite being resisted, are so oppressive, and Shadow Claws do a lot of damage as well, that this isn't actually a bad matchup. I'm going to go for the next Hydro Cannon, and it gets them really low. They're going to fire off a move, and it is going to be the Play Rough. So from here, I think I can just go for a full farm down. Actually, unfortunately not. They did farm up a lot of energy, so I just decided against it and decide to just go for the Hydro Cannon. The opponent sends back in Sandslash, and I look to try call a bait here, as I think they might be expecting I'm going to shield, but they end up full sending it. So this is going to be a bit tricky getting rid of this big Core Breaker. The opponent goes for the Ice Punch, and that's a little bit tricky as that does a lot of damage. I'm going to fire off the Dark Pulse, opponent almost guaranteed to shield it, and now they're going to fire off another move. But they actually end up catching onto Wigglytuff, so this is really bad. Fortunately, Clodsire does have a great matchup there, but we need to just throw just before they make it to the Icy Wind, as we definitely don't want to be hit with that. So I throw one turn before they make it, and Earthquake from this range will definitely grab the KO, so it's all a race. I think we do win this race. I don't think the opponent makes 3 Ice Punches before we make the Stone Edge, so this will be a good game. Stone Edge does pick up the KO, and that's a GG's. Into the next match, Nightmare lead into Bastiodon. I'm going to safe switch into Feraligatr, and the opponent sends in Metacham. These are some old meta Pokemon right here. More Season 17 Pokemon here, I think. But that was really fast. This is just a Power-Up Punch, right? Why are these people just going straight Power-Up Punch? They're not even trying to bait. They're just going straight Power-Up Punch. I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm going to go for the Hydro Cannon, and it does grab the shield. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make another one because of the Power-Up Punch. But the opponent is 2 shields to... The opponent is 0 shields to 2, which is really good for us. Opponent's going to fire off the Ice Punch. That still does barely anything. And now I'm going to fire off the Aerial Ace after over-farming by 1. I'm going to go for the Aerial Ace, and the opponent's in the Bastiodon, and they've got a Sableye in the back. I'm going to shoot up the Foul Play, as it would do more damage than pretty much anything. I'm going to go for the Earthquake. Earthquake does do a bit more than half, and now I can just fire off the Stone Edge, and I accidentally throw in the CMP tie. Opponent goes for the Foul Play, and now I can just fire off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge will grab the KO pretty easily, and now the opponent's heading back in the Bastiodon. They can't get rid of Clodsire's remaining health, and that's a GG's. Thanks for watching.